Our entry means that we have semi-finals to determine positions 13 and below in the world, and we're looking at the first of those CD semi-finals right now, and a 5-crew lineup, and I think it's fair to say with some representatives of countries that we don't normally see competing at World Championships. Some of these nations fielding their only competitor. So there's Shashi Bukuswar of India in lane 1, joined by Marcus Conway of New Zealand in lane 3, the Australian Tim Hawkins in lane 4, and George Stratos of Cyprus in lane 5.
Well, Timothy Hawkins has established a commanding lead through the first 1,000 meters of this first of 4 semi-finals, the men's lightweight single sculls.
We're seeing a number of crews on the water here today who were in that unhappy position. The luck of the draw failed them, that they're being squeezed back into a race such as this, where suddenly they find they can dominate from the front. And had they had a better draw in the repechage, who knows, they might have made the B final quite comfortably and done very well indeed.
Well, as you say, Robert, just looking at that Australian sculler, it's astonishing really to think that he's gone through to the C final. So El Salvador comes through in 2nd, New Zealand in 3rd, India in 4th, and yet to see the Cypriot sculler. There you have it, 5.5 seconds over the El Salvadorian, but in no way reflects the dominance of the Australian sculler. We're getting ready here for the second of these 4 semi-finals of the men's lightweight single sculls from the World Range Championships in Tampere. Estonia lane 1, Pakistan 2, Croatia, Greece and Russia. 3 to go through to the C final. And away cleanly, first time of asking. Beautiful conditions here on the lake after that early rain, a little bit of wind. See the sculler's reflections in the water, always a good sign. Through the 100-meter mark cleanly, and the race now through, coming up 500 meters out, starting to establish a pattern. As they come through halfway, Greek sculler looks like he's got a lead of some half a length.
He's in the 3rd place of the C final, and Loorits of Estonia on the far side and Derevyankin of Russia, they're the 2 tail enders right now.
Good to see a Pakistani competitor up here in these semis. Want to see more of it,
because you look around the international heavyweight rowing circuit these days, and all the guys weigh at least 200 pounds or so, 6'3". Greece, Pakistan and Croatia go through to the C final. There they go across the line. Don't quite know what happened to Estonia there. We didn't see him for much of the race, and as you can see, he was 30 seconds clear of the competition on the line. These are the 2 races which will determine who contests the grand final at the weekend.
All they're concentrating on is getting away cleanly, giving themselves a chance to race. And they're away. Niall O'Toole, smooth as ever, pushes hard over that first 20 strokes. He tends to row 3 and 20 as it's called, 3 very fast strokes, then 20, really racing out, and then settling down once he's through this 100-meter mark. Niall O'Toole, of course, came over to the UK to race in the Sculler's head of the river race, which is held over 4¼ miles. First time he'd raced in it, and managed to win. Beat his great rival, Peter Haining. It's a pretty astonishing performance, given that it's on an open river with lots of different currents. Extraordinary performance from an extraordinary sculler. So, as we were saying before this, a much closer field here, much higher quality racing. 3 to go through, so they're waiting to establish a pattern. All of them trying to hold this pace as long as they can. As we were saying before, they want to find a rhythm that'll carry them through. As they go through the 1,500-meter mark, four scullers cross that 500-meter mark in a line. Almost impossible to separate. The 5th sculler, the Italian, barely a boat's length behind. Switzerland, Ireland, Netherlands and the USA holding those first 4 slots at the moment. But they're going to have to sort it out, because only 3 are going to go through. Niall O'Toole just starting to shade it a little. His usual very relaxed style, very powerful through the middle of the stroke, very clean, very efficient. See him glancing left and right. He's not only checking on distance, he's also checking on how his competitors are performing. If he looks alongside and to his left, you'll see the American, James Martinez, sculling very efficiently, but just like we saw in the heavyweight event with his mate Cyrus Beasley, rowing no particular finish. Peculiar to the Americans, that obviously seems to work for them. Baenninger, Swiss sculler there with these extraordinary riggers on his boat. Look like scaffold poles that have been bolted on, but I assure you they're not. So we have 3 leading this field at the moment. We have Niall O'Toole, we have James Martinez, and we have Michael Baenninger. These 3 at the moment in the qualifying slots for the grand final. I suspect that O'Toole will want a little bit more distance than this before he can settle down. And certainly the Italian, 4th slot, Dutchman in the 5th, not making it easy for them. Through the 1,000 meters, the race starts to hot up as the Italian pushes hard through that 1,000. It's always a significant marker. I think Baenninger's noticed it and is pushing as well, kicking, trying to hold that push. If he can hold it and then maintain his own form, use that to build away. Italian has made a mark. Maybe he's trying to push more. Yes, he's having a very strong go now. Very strong go to try to get back on terms. Interesting, I think the Baenninger started to drift a little bit towards the Italian sculler there. Sometimes tends to happen. If you look at your opponent, you tend to draw towards him. Baenninger there at 37.5, trying to cover the Italian's push. Niall O'Toole certainly looks a lot easier than I can tell you that it'll feel in there.
Yeah, that push between Baenninger, the Swiss, and the Italian, Audisio, has really brought them back on to close terms with Martinez. Martinez has had to push out the length quite significantly. And O'Toole, as you say, John, he'd have liked to have had a more comfortable margin of at this point, but it's not going to be the way, because Baenninger having to fight off Audisio yet again. Baenninger with those incredible riggers. I do hope they're made of aluminium or some light metal, otherwise he's doing himself a great disservice. But Audisio coming back now. He's on level pegging. Switzerland and Italy neck and neck for the 3rd qualifying place, with just 500 meters to go in this first semi-final of the men's lightweight singles. And Martinez had better watch out, otherwise he's going to be left behind in the rush.
It's a very, very tough qualifying semi, this. Martinez must be putting in a gigantic effort over that first 2/3 of the stroke, because there isn't a final third. It's remarkable that he's able to hold that, just as it was with Cyrus Beasley. I don't know quite what they're doing out there, but they're doing it well. The Italian pushing extremely hard on both the American and the Swiss at the moment, and there's very, very little to choose. Niall O'Toole still holding his position. Martinez having to kick very hard now through this last 500. Niall O'Toole certainly has them covered. Don't see any problems there, but certainly it's not all over for these last 2 qualifying positions. 30 strokes to go as they come past this 250-metre mark to go. And certainly the Italian has come through Baenninger. And we wonder now whether Baenninger has a final 20 left in the tank. Niall O'Toole really gracefully pushes his legs towards the final line, pushes hard and recovers on the way forward. The battle's on behind him though, and Baenninger at the moment appears to be slipping back. Martinez is holding his second place position, having a go. No worries there for O'Toole. Good luck to him, I think he's saying. The Italian desperately watching over his right-hand shoulder, just covering Baenninger in case he tries to come back. And that looks to me how it's going to finish as they cross the line in this, the third semi. 3 to go through, and that 3 right now look like Niall O'Toole, Martinez of the US,
and in fact Audisio, the Italian, that push was so strong, he was so keen to maintain that lead ahead of Baenninger from Switzerland, that push took him ahead of Martinez. So the 1, 2, 3 there was O'Toole first across the line, then Audisio of Italy, and then Martinez of America. So those are the 3 qualifiers for the A final.
Confirmation there, Ireland first, Italy second, the US third, Baenninger fourth in Switzerland, Netherlands fifth, Chile sixth.
Back on the start, the last semi-final for the men's lightweight singles. And right now we're looking at Heikki Havikko, the Finn. He's one of the only 2 straight qualifiers for this semi, alongside Peter Haining of Great Britain, the current world champion at Prague in '93, and again last year, back in the single after a disappointing season in the double with Carl Smith. So Peter Haining keen to make it 3 in a row and establish himself yet again as lightweight single supremo. And the race pans out now through the first quarter, and Haining continues to maintain that lead ahead of Tomasz Kakowski of the Czech Republic, Heikki Havikko of Finland on his home territory. He hangs on to the 3rd qualifying slot. James Bramwell, the Canadian, he's the newcomer in lane 6, first international season in the single. He's in 4th place at the moment, but still well down. So Peter Haining, now what we were saying about clothing earlier doesn't seem to work for Haining, does it, John? Because if there's one man who we can generally see wrap up against the cooler weather, it's Mr. Haining, who's a familiar sight in his long white leggings and his white baseball cap, but he's left those back at the boathouse for this particular outing. But thankfully it doesn't seem to be doing him too much damage, and he maintains this lead in this last semi-final.
Hey, Peter Haining is known on the international circuit as being, shall we say, his own man. Very strong mentally, as all of these leading scullers are. They have to have, rather like, I often think of them as rather like the sprinters in track and field racing. They're very focused, very closed, very much insular people, often very jumpy, very nervy, but very, very confident. And their confidence in their own ability is precisely what is required at the highest level. Haining goes through the 1,000-metre mark there, still maintaining his comfortable lead over the Finn. This is a much easier race for Peter than Niall O'Toole had in the previous semi-final rather. Niall O'Toole had the additional pressure of the second qualifying spots being pushed very hard. Here Peter can sit and watch the Finn and the Czech as they try and cover the pushes from the Canadian and the Dane behind them. Peter's pushed on himself now. He's kicking very hard for about 20 strokes, I suspect, just to give himself that comfort factor. And I suspect if he achieves what he wishes to, we'll see him gradually wind down the pressure over the last 500. With these lightweight competitors, as we were saying before, there's very little error for margin, and anything they can do to nurse themselves through this, they'll take every opportunity.
Harvey-Coe neck and neck with Krakowski for second and third slot. These two scullers with quite a substantial margin ahead of the rest of the field. The only man who can come back looks like being the Turk, Murat Tuerker, over on the far side in lane 1, but the field getting further spread out as they come down to the closing stages. They've just got a quarter of the course left.
Peter sculling well. I think that his race with Niall O'Toole in the final is going to be something to behold. I think it should be a real struggle there. As much a battle of wills as a battle of skills on the water.
So down to the closing stages of this second AB semi of the men's lightweight singles. The three leading scullers will go through to tomorrow's grand final, scheduled for 10:30 Central European time. Peter Haining leads the way home ahead of Thomas Krakowski of the Czech Republic in second. Heikki Harvey-Coe of Finland. And no doubt that'll please the home crowd here at Tampere.
Certainly being pressed over this closing stage.
The Dane Anders Brems is coming down hard, isn't he? Harvey-Coe is having to put on the pressure.
He's going to need a big 10 strokes. He's going to need a big 10 strokes.
And the two leading scullers have noticed it coming. If Harvey-Coe's got to put on the pressure, then so too they must respond as well. And the Dane is level.
Yeah.
Nicely judged by the Dane. Anders Brems then. Fourth place at Lucerne, just behind Harvey-Coe. And he's going to cross the line ahead of him this time.
Bitter disappointment, I think, there for the Finn. Look at that shot. All four scullers drifting over the line there. Really bitter disappointment for the home crowd. Everyone would have thought that he judged that to perfection. No one seemed to have told the Dane.
In the replay we see Haining cross the line there, just half a canvas, 3 or 4 feet up on Krakowski. Third place was Denmark, just 3 feet ahead of Finland. So well-measured race by Anders Brems, the Dane there. He finished just behind Harvey-Coe, the Finn, at Lucerne, and he's turned that position right around. And so, in tomorrow's grand final, the 6 lightweight men's single scullers we'll see competing on Niall O'Toole of Ireland, James Martinez of the United States, Marco Audisio from Italy, Thomas Krakowski of the Czech Republic, Peter Haining of Great Britain, and Anders Brems of Denmark.